Dungeon Siege is a dungeon-crawling action RPG from the early 2000s. It was developed by Chris Taylor, who's well known for making Total Annihilation. Taylor wanted to make a different type of game in Dungeon Siege. Different, that sure is. You play a farmer whose farm is attacked by a race of creatures known as the Krug, who got their name because it's what every single one of them says when they die. Then an old man falls in front of you and tells you to go find some dude called Gyorn in the town of Stonebridge. So you abandon literally everything to find some old fart because some orc wannabes attacked your cabbage patch. If you've played Diablo, the gameplay of Dungeon Siege will be familiar. You follow a linear path, gathering loot as you kill monsters of increasing difficulty, and pillage long-forgotten tombs and caves. And oh boy, does Dungeon Siege have loot! Before you reach the first town, you will have left an entire inventory's worth of loot on the ground, so you simply couldn't hold it all. Unlike Diablo, however, Dungeon Siege doesn't have classes. Instead, you use the equipment you want and level up in the appropriate stats. So if you want to cast a lot of spells, your intelligence will go up, as well as your ability to use that school of magic. You can't jack of all trades through Dungeon Siege. If you spread yourself too thin, you won't be able to use anything, because you can't meet the stat requirements for the equipment and spells. This is where your companions come in handy. As you progress, you will come across other people who can come along you on your journey, up to 7 additional characters. These people will fill the areas your main character can't. If your main character goes melee, another character can go for nature magic. When you aren't directly controlling the party, they will be operating on an AI you can give parameters to in a menu that looks like it will alter my DNA. The idea of telling your AI how to behave in a fight was a unique idea at the time. It was implemented before some more well-known titles would expand upon it. However, it is made redundant by the fact that it is just not enough. The parameters are too simplistic for situations. There's no attack the strongest enemy unless another enemy is in melee range. It's either defend yourself or murder hobo everything you see. So you will likely be pausing the game to give direct orders to your companions in fights rather than let them take care of themselves. Because they won't. Remember Gyorn, the dude you were told to find in Stonebridge? He is such a fucking wimp. In the first dungeon, he consumed more health potions than the main character did on their way to the town. As I played, it felt like the AI was self-centered. They'll stand and watch someone be killed, but won't fight back because they haven't been hit. So you have to pause the game and tell everyone to defend this person they've been traveling with. It's like a D&D party where the players hate each other. One person's getting fucked by goblins and the DM tells everyone to help out, or they'll end the campaign. Sometimes your companions won't follow orders. I still don't know if this is intentional or not. It can be good if you tell everyone to attack a monster, but one person ignores it to defend themselves. It becomes a problem when a character just stands there, watching someone get munched on, despite you explicitly telling them to get off their fucking ass and help. Apparently, the graphics are really good. It's hard to notice, because I'm looking at the health bars during fights. I don't have time to see that everyone's taking a break, because as soon as you take your eyes off the health bars, someone takes a fucking nuke to the chest. Combat is about as complicated as pressing the left mouse button, because that's all it is. You can press H or M to make the party drink a potion for health or mana, but you're not going to be narrowly dodging attacks. Instead, you'll be mashing the H button to keep a character alive because they're being attacked by 5 enemies at the same time, and you'll be healing a lot. Because where Dungeon Siege lacks in the complexity in its combat, it tries to make up for making you want to lobotomize yourself after a fight that goes on for 5 minutes because there are so many enemies. I feel like I'm back in Dark Souls 2 with the terrible enemy placement. There's just so many monsters. Fucking hell, there's so many. When it comes to who the enemies target first, it's one of 2 criteria. The first character the monsters see, or the first character to deal damage to it. In the first case, this will usually be your melee tanks, so that's fine. It's the second case that's the problem. When the whole party is attacking an enemy, who will be the first one to hit? The ranged characters, the ones with little to no armor or melee capability, the monsters don't go for them and then change to the dude in its face. They will chase their target to the end of the earth. They will straight up phase through people to get to them. Originally, I was under the impression this would be easy. How innocent I was. At the start, you only have yourself. You're all alone, but managing to get through the game. It's not too challenging, it's actually pretty easy. But once you reach Stonebridge, that all changes. Suddenly, the amount of enemies triples, and they can dish out a lot more damage. A lot more. I feel like the designers assume that because you would have at least 2 more companions at this point, they can triple the difficulty because you have triple the party size, not taking into consideration that the 2 new companions you have are basically new characters with shit gear and no stats. The main character ends up being the team's carry because they're the only one at the appropriate level for the area. It doesn't help that the companions in Stonebridge that actually have increased stats are really expensive, and you may only be able to get one of them when you first leave. And after leaving enough equipment to arm an army, who are you going to go for? A mage, an archer, or a pack mule that can carry way more than any character? At least the pack mule can tank when Gyorn can't hit anything because the fucking idiot is dead. When you do get the companions that cost money, you'll have gotten gold from the spider dungeon and will be onto the mine, and the same problem persists. They just don't have good enough stats, so you're still on babysitting duty. When a character runs out of health, they only go down. They have a timer based on their max health. When the timer runs out, the character gets up with 1 hit point, but they're back up if the fighting's still going on, or if there's a fly nearby, they will go back down before the standing animation is even complete because something will snipe it. If a character continues taking damage while down, which is dictated by how nice the game is feeling for that character, they'll permanently die, and your next move is to either revive them with a scroll or spell, or loot their paragraph of gear and leave them to rot. You have more of a chance of not having to load the last save after someone goes down, but it feels like luck for whether or not a monster continues attacking a downed person. They don't care if they take damage, they might immediately choose a new target, or make sure that if they go down, they're taking Gyorn with them. Dungeon Siege doesn't have many glaring issues, apart from its difficulty, but there's a lot of minor annoyances that when combined can really get on your nerves. Like how some people won't get on an elevator before it moves, so you end up with half the party going down an elevator and the other half standing like a bunch of idiots. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to go back up a lift to get 1 or 2 characters to go on it because they didn't stand on it. The camera can also get really annoying. It's fixed to the character that you have selected, but if the party's close enough together, it will adjust itself to see everyone. This would be fine if it didn't randomly jerk to the side when you try to pick something up. You have to either individually click on each item to pick it up, or press a button to pick everything up, with the added questionable decision to also make party members automatically give all items picked up with the button to the pack mule, so you either spend the majority of the time fighting the camera and position of your teammates to pick shit up, or end up with the pack mule hoarding all the fucking potions, so in the middle of the fight, Gyorn doesn't have any potions and fucking dies again. Even when the camera isn't trying to make you rip your hair out as you yet again walk towards the goal and not pick it up, if someone is anywhere near where you click, even if it's through a fucking wall, you will end up selecting that character instead. Again, nothing big, but oh my fucking god, does it get annoying to do for the 20th time. What about multiplayer? Dungeon Siege has multiplayer. You can play through the entire campaign in multiplayer. However, it's dead. Really dead. Dungeon Siege uses a system called Zone Match for its multiplayer, and I couldn't find any other mention of Zone Match anywhere online. Just think of GameSpy but for Microsoft. And its similarities to GameSpy are in more ways than just its functionality. Zone Match was killed on June 19th, 2006, much to the dismay of some dude called Dungeon Dirge, turned a thread about Zone Match into a political discussion on America and corporations, who then did a fucking 180 in the thread like 3 days later after he was told he was breaking the rules by telling people to pirate Microsoft products. What the fuck happened on those 3 days? Did they ever come to his house with a gun? So if you want to play multiplayer, you can do it over LAN or virtual LAN for people who are too far away using Hamachi. I wasn't able to test the multiplayer. Apparently, the host will sometimes crash. Also, there's no saving in multiplayer. The character is saved, but you resume your game by picking a town to spawn in. When it was released, Dungeon Siege received favorable reviews. People put it on the list of the best RPGs of that year, right behind Neverwinter Nights, Morrowind. So it was a big deal at the time. It got 2 sequels, Dungeon Siege, which, fun fact, used GameSpy for its multiplayer, and improved on a lot of areas if memory serves me correctly. Also Dungeon Siege 3, which is yet another cash grab by a company that doesn't understand what made the original so good and exploited people's nostalgia for the original, and is yet another reason I cry at night. Dungeon Siege also got a series of film adaptations by critically acclaimed director Uwe Boll, whose name almost looks like an uwu and is a complete total fucking psychopath. Challenged his critics to a boxing match.
So I wrote like, okay, if you come up here and you fight me, then I will kick the shit out of you.
And is notorious for terrible video game film adaptations. There are people who believe to use films as a ways of exploiting how Germany taxes people that invest money into films, in which you only get taxed on the money you got in return, so if a film was a pile of bullshit, you wouldn't make much of your money back, so you wouldn't get taxed on it, a perfectly fine system. So, would I recommend Dungeon Siege? If you'd have asked me before I left Stonebridge, I'd have said yes, absolutely. It's a fun, simplistic game where you just walk and fight. There's no grand story where if you forget a single character or event, the entire game makes no sense. Witcher 3. But the little things, like the camera or the AI, massive things like the difficulty, that make this game hard to recommend. If you're a huge fan of games like Diablo or Divinity Original Sin, and are looking for something similar and don't mind daily graphics, Dungeon Siege could be worth your time. In the end, Dungeon Siege is a fine game, but I couldn't bring myself to make it all the way through.